US threatening to end cooperation with Moscow on Syria unless, quote, Russian and Syrian attacks on Aleppo stop. That ultimatum was made in a phone call, apparently, between the US Secretary of State John Kerry and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. The US State Department also says it's looking at non-diplomatic options now for responding to the situation in that war-torn country. Let's get some reaction from Syria, from Bouthanina Shaaban, who's a political and media advisor to Syria's President Assad. Thanks for being with us today. It's appreciated. Your reaction then to the news that the US State Department first off says that extremists would exploit the vacuum and Russia would continue, as they put it, to send troops home in body bags. Why is America taking this very strong, hard position here, making those statements?
I think because the Americans want, because they could not fulfill any of their promises and any of their commitments about, separating between terrorists and what they call the moderate opposition. They could not fulfill any of their commitments. So they are trying to raise the bar for the Russians in a show of force. I think the Russians are the ones who are committed to everything they say, to every word they write, to every agreement they sign, while the Americans, they are not doing that. They are only trying to support the terrorists in Syria. That's what the Americans are doing.
How concerned are you, where you are, to hear this news today that Obama administration officials have apparently begun considering tougher responses now, including maybe military options? That's been reported by the Reuters news agency. Your thoughts about that news?
Well, we are concerned right from day one because this war on Syria was started by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and with the support of Saudi Arabia. And hundreds of thousands of our people were killed, and there is actually a military operation against our people. The American planes have just killed over 80 soldiers in Deir ez-Zor. Yesterday, they destroyed 2 bridges, also in the east of Syria. They are carrying their operation without the cooperation with the Syrian government, without coordinating their efforts with us. It is a violation of our sovereignty, and it is an aggression against our country and against our people.
Obviously, they're taking a different line. They're denying a lot of what you're saying nonetheless. But what kind of message, if this is true, that they're now considering tougher, maybe military options, what kind of message is that sending about any further peace negotiations? A bad sign, I guess, yeah?
The problem is that they for years now, they have been meeting with the Russians, they have been reaching agreements, but they don't honor any of the agreements. And if we take the latest example, they agreed on the 9th of September to have a cessation of hostilities. The Syrian government immediately agreed to the cessation of hostilities. All terrorist organizations refused to adhere to that. And yet the United States and even the UN did not say one word to describe the facts as they are. So we are in a situation where the United Nations and the United States do not say the truth about what's happening in Syria. This is a fact.
Why did the recent ceasefire fail, do you think, or was it always going to fail, bearing in mind what you've just said?
Sorry?
Why did the recent ceasefire fail? The US says it's the fault of the Syrians, some fault of the Russians. Obviously, you're saying something different. Where did it go wrong, or was it always doomed to failure?
I think anybody who would read what has been said, if you go back to the Congress session on the 22nd of September, and to what Ashton Carter, the defense minister in the United States, and Joseph Dunford said, and John McCain, you will see that the ceasefire failed and the agreement was not implemented because of a real conflict of interest between the Pentagon and the White House. This is the reality of the situation. The problem is within the United States.
Is there anything more that Syria could have done, though, to have saved the ceasefire? Is there any lessons that Syria could have learned here?
Well, we are trying our very best. I just want to say that tomorrow is the first anniversary of the Russians' cooperation with the Syrian army against terrorism. And I would like to say to all viewers that it's only the Russians and the Iranians who are truly fighting terrorism along with the Syrian army. And we have to remember that Russia and China had to take the first veto on the 4th of October 2011 because Western countries were targeting Syria since that date. So I would like to pay my respect to Russia and to the Russian army and to the Russian people because they are defending the Syrian people and they are truly fighting terrorism on behalf of the entire humanity.
Doctor, while we've got you on the line, today Russia's Defense Ministry spokesperson, reacting to John Kirby's words in the State Department in America, said that the US is controlling a terrorist organization in Syria. Who's he talking about there then?
Who said that?
Russia's Defense Ministry spokesperson just earlier on today said that the US is controlling a terrorist organization in Syria. Which terrorist organization?
Well, I think, you know, Nusra in Syria is absolutely protected by the United States, by Qatar, by Saudi Arabia and Turkey. All the terrorists in Syria are the same. You know, if you go to the field, you will find them cooperating, the terrorists cooperating with each other, selling each other arms. Even earlier on, they were selling each other kidnapped people. So to differentiate between terrorists is a really big, you know, illusion, really. And the reality shows that the American coalition is not fighting terrorism in Syria. It's only the Russian and the Syrian army, along with the Iranians, who are truly fighting terrorism in Syria.
The military spokesperson also said as well today that Russia's aware that US specialists are in Aleppo planning and controlling the terrorist operations. Is that something that you're aware of as well?
Well, you know, I could see that. I think you have to talk to the Russians who said that. But we can see from the Syrian perspective that every time we liberate any area from the terrorists, the United States raises the alarm. You know, they do not want us to liberate Aleppo from the terrorists. They do not want us to liberate our country from the terrorists. They only reach a truce when they want to protect terrorists and they want the terrorists to regather and rearm themselves and so that they stay occupying part of our land.
What are the chances as we stand today of any kind of diplomatic settlement to end Syria's crisis?
Well, I think if there was a real intention in the United States to truly reach a solution and a settlement of this war on Syria, it is not very difficult at all. But unfortunately, Turkey is also leading an aggression against our country. Qatar and Saudi Arabia are arming and financing all these attacks on our country. And so the reality of the situation is that those countries do not have the will or the desire to end this war on Syria.
Live from Damascus, Dr. Bouthanina Shaaban, political and media advisor to Syria.